I checked out the first two episodes of The Last of Us. Thought I'd give you my impressions. First, in terms of the video game, I did not play The Last of Us. I am aware of its very rough overview plot. Understand very much a beloved game. Understand it had a very rich storyline, and that woke idiots went and screwed up the Last of Us 2. Something to keep in mind. Uh, I am a zombie aficionado of sorts, but I won't. I'm not the type of person who likes any kind of zombie movie that comes along. I need a decent storyline, and I can tolerate a lot of slop if you have a good storyline, good characters, decent dialogue. Originally a very big Romero fan up until and through Day of the Dead, which I thought actually was a pretty good effort considering the budget. Everything after that turned into drivel when Romero started believing his own crap about making social commentary. I like the Return of the Living Dead. Uh, Obviously, much more tongue in cheek, uh, but I thought it was very true to form in terms of uh, just executing the idea of the zombie genre. I did like the 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake. Virtually all the other remakes around there were trash. I'm not. Uh, I don't like super zombies uh, unless they have a really good explanation. I don't like the type of shows or movies where all of a sudden, for no reason at all, regular people turn into super beings who can run along the tops of the ceilings like spiders and stuff. It is just kind of silly. Uh, was a big fan of The Walking Dead. First couple of seasons, obviously, really good, and it had a slow, steady decline over time. And I don't know where I kind of left off. I think I'm about one or two seasons away from the end, and I might revisit it just to get it over with. But it kind of lost its charm. I even liked uh, Z Nation. It was a little bit up and down, but it really had some good moments. If you never checked it out, it is worth watching as long as you understand that in many ways it's a parody of zombie movies, but it's still a decent thing. Movies uh, like the movie World War Z is trash. It, it'd be hideous trash if it was on its own, and the fact that they had a really good book to work from and decided to do nothing with it other than buy the title. Uh, yeah, so that's my general feel for zombie movies. I'm just giving you that so you get a feel for uh, my take on the whole thing. And I'm going to not do any particular spoilers. So the first thing is not knowing the whole storyline of the game. I can't tell you how true they stayed to their lore, how well they're following the storyline, or how close the characters are to the game. But based on what I've seen from other reviewers, they're doing a pretty good job of it. Now, having no real connection to the game, I have to say overall, I really liked what I saw in the first two episodes. Um, its production values are out of this world. Um, if you'd like compare it to something like, and I don't see how there's no other zombie feature I can think of that has production values this high. Uh, like Walking Dead at its absolute best, like where Rick is entering Atlanta, where they threw out all the stops in terms of how things look. Uh, that comes close to some of The Last of Us, their worst. So saying is the view is fantastic. When they show the characters moving through a crumbling city, it really looks like they're going through a crumbling city. Uh, Absolutely stellar the way things look. The the way the camera works is really well done. A lot of interesting angles that really frame things up right. They're not aiming for jump scares. They're aiming for a kind of an overwhelmed feeling of dread. They do pull off creepy really well in this. Overwhelmingly, I would say the actors are well cast for their roles, whether they match up with the game or not. Uh, like, for instance, the young girl who's the main focus of this, they did a really good job of making her kind of precocious and sassy without her being annoying and obnoxious. Uh, Acting is really good. Dialogue is excellent. Uh, and the storyline on its own, not knowing how it meshes up with the game, is really well done. Uh, the pacing's good. It's not nonstop action. They have critical dialogue scenes. Things are moving along. Uh, the pacing is really, really well done. There's at no point where you're sitting there going, "Why did they do this?" You see that in a lot of things nowadays where they have filler, or you're just like, "Okay, why? What's the point of this?" Everything in this seems to have it's either advancing the storyline or telling you about the characters. So absolutely fantastically well done. Uh, the world is rich beyond belief. So, like, if you take a look at virtually every other zombie uh, genre movie, TV, with maybe the exception of Z Nation, you really don't have a good feel for what the world looks like because everything you're just dealing with small pockets of people dealing with the area they're in. And the richest, like The Walking Dead ever gets, where you start seeing some depth to things, is where they have the several community complex that forms up around Alexandria. But even then, you don't really get a feel for what the world's like and what's going on. Whereas this one, they put a lot of effort into Boston. Uh, it's it seems like a really truly functional world, uh, especially the inside the quarantine zone. It's authoritarian without being stupid. You know how sometimes uh, writers will write authoritarian, but it's just like authoritarian brutality for the sake of just being brutal. Whereas you can see this as a society that's grown up to deal with the situation they're in. The one thing I can't say for sure is whether the internal rule set of this world, how the various infected creatures work, I don't know. So far, it seems like they're following a rule set. I didn't see anything jump out at me that where it's like they're doing one thing and then all of a sudden they say, "Oh well, yeah, in this case it can do this," and it's never done that before. It seems like it's following its own set of rules uh, quite well. And so I'm really impressed off of these first two episodes. Now, the one warning I'll put out there, obviously, is, you know, the people who were eventually involved, in the Last of Us series, they were stupid enough to create The Last of Us 2, creating a woke disaster. So it isn't beyond reason that at some point this drifts off into that. I don't see any evidence of that happening yet, but nowadays you never know what's going to happen. And the other thing is, if they are relying heavily on the game as source material, which I suspect they are, uh, and it makes me want to actually play the game, that this is so intriguing. The question is, do they have enough source material to bring this to a satisfying conclusion? My concern would be is if they run out of source material, we end up something with like Game of Thrones, where all of a sudden the writers are like, "Hey, it was our genius the entire time that was making this work," and they just throw something together to close it out that turns it into utter trash. So those are the only caveats I have. Right now, it looks like somebody has made something that's really good. Just on the surface, I put this up, and being a zombie-ophile, I put this at the top. Now, it depends how it continues to play out and whether they can bring it to a satisfying conclusion. So, has anybody else seen The Last of Us? Comment below. Tell me what you're thinking of it. Tell me if you have any, if you've seen anything that indicates that some of my fears could be an issue. Because if you have some insight into the game, you might see something that I can't see yet. Please smash the like button. If you've stumbled across this as the YouTube algorithm dragged you over here, please consider subscribing to my channel. I have a very eclectic group of topics I cover. And if there's someone you think might find this interesting, please consider sharing it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.